technologies is, first of all, to reduce the amount of waste that is finally disposed to landfill sites. And on the other hand, it's to take advantage of a valuable and reusable materials that are included in waste, like metals, plastic, paper, cardboards, and of course the reuse of energy that is included in the waste with energy recovery and producing energy out of waste. This is the way that Northeast Europe and other big countries are doing at the moment, and this is the targets that countries like Greece and the other countries are following and are forced to do in the future.
Where do you make the difference?
We, as a company,
Yes.
we're a technology provider, so depends on the client needs and on the user and on the legislation in each project. We are trying to comply with the latest technology available and to provide the best technology available to the client, which is usually the state and the local authorities. And as a company, we can say that we are up to date if we are talking about available technologies, and we have also our own technology for a treatment of mixed municipal waste, producing alternative fuels, which can be used either to cement kilns, replacing other fuels, or can be used, those alternative fuels we are producing from municipal waste directly to waste to energy plants to produce energy. Unfortunately, waste to energy plants do not exist in Greece yet, but the state is planning to install some of them in the future. Don't ask me how many years ahead. I don't know.
Is your work mandatory due to legislation?
Yes, because usually we are dealing with projects that are funded by European Union. So from this point of view, we have to follow and we have to adopt the current legislation, and the legislation in Greece is following European legislation and regulations. So from this point of view, we are obliged to do it, and we must be obliged, if you want my opinion on that. Otherwise, we won't do any steps ahead because we'll stay with landfills. Legislation must be an obligation and must be a mandatory, yes.
Does Greek cities comply to the legislation?
The cities, no, they don't. They don't because there are two basic problems on that. The two problems that the cities do not comply with the legislation is not that we don't have legislation. Our legislation is very good, but the problem we have in this country is that we not apply the legislation. We just develop legislation, or we just accept the European legislation. The problem with applying of the legislation, of the complying with the legislation, is first of all that there is no motivation to the citizens and also to the municipalities. There is no motivation because in all European countries, the citizens are called to pay according to the amount of the waste they are producing and they are giving to the cities, to the municipality. In Greece, we are not charged according to the amount of the waste we are producing, but we are charged according to the area of our property. For example, if myself and my family, we are 4 members, live in a house of a 50 square meters area, and you, by yourself, as a student, live in a big house of 100 square meters area, you are going to pay double the taxation than I do. Because the taxation for the treatment of waste is a function of the square meters of the properties and not a function of the amount of waste we are producing. So if we live 4 people in a smaller house, we are producing more waste because we are consuming more food, we are consuming more consumables, but you will have to pay more because although you are by yourself, you have a bigger house. This is this is crazy, and it happens only in Greece. And this is not a motivation for me and for you to reduce our waste, to recycle waste. There is no motivation. With something that happens in every city, big city, and in every country of Europe. The second problem is a problem that exists in every single country of the world. It's called NIMBY syndrome. NIMBY is not in my backyard, which means that no one wants waste treatment next to his house. And we don't take into consideration that we are human beings, and as far as we are alive, we are going to produce waste. And it's not on our good willing. It must not be on our good willing the appropriate treatment of waste, but it must be our obligation. We must treat the waste, otherwise we'll have serious problems. But NIMBY syndrome is a syndrome that exists in every place of the world, and the state has to give very big importance on that and to make people ready to accept infrastructures close to the properties to treat the waste. In general, before creating an infrastructure, a treatment plant or something else in a city in Europe, there is a time of 2 or 3 years the state is spending to come in contact with the local community, with the citizens, to convince them that this infrastructure must be installed. And finally, they are convinced. But in Greece, the state does not do that. They decide behind closed doors, and they finally go somewhere and install an infrastructure. And there are reactions from the citizens, and all these things make Greek cities not to comply with the legislation.
Did you have problems?
If I'm speaking a lot, you can stop me.
No, it's okay.
It's okay.
Okay.
Did you have problems to change the mindset of cities officials in order to secure the above?
Yes, we have a serious problem because we don't have the tools to convince them. because all this problem I said before, the first thing is that the officials, the mayors or people that are having on their hands the decisions, they don't care about waste treatment. They don't pay attention on that. They only want to get rid of the waste. This is the one problem. The second problem is, I mentioned that before, that citizens have no motivation. So legislation must change, in my opinion, and the citizen must pay according to how much material they are recycling and how much amount of waste they are sending to landfills. So we have motivations to participate in this trial. And the third thing is that we must get a culture which a trial must start from the school, that the treatment of waste and appropriate handling of waste is an obligation. It's also one leg of a civilization of a city. A world cannot be civilized, a community cannot called civilized if they are sending the waste in a dump sites, or if they are sending the wastewater to the rivers and to the sea. But this, it's a very difficult point because of this syndrome I mentioned before, NIMBY. It's like you have a bag of waste after a party in your house, and you just want to get up in the morning and to send the bags to the waste bin. You are not staying there to separate metals, plastics, and all. But this is a culture that it has to be gained from age to age.
Do you see
From generation to generation, sorry.
It's okay. Do you see the environmental policy as a must and obligation to ourselves and our future generation?
I'll tell you something that probably you won't like it. When I was at your age, I used to believe that this culture will come as time goes on. And but after almost 25 years working in this area, I believe that the communities must be forced on this, and the legislation must be applied. We don't have time to spend for convincing people in a long-term period that must participate in an appropriate treatment of solid and wastewater. For example, in Athens, there is only one landfill site that is accepting 6,000 tons of waste per day. It's the biggest landfill site in Europe, and it's just one. If this landfill site, for some reason, does not operate for a week, means that 6,000 tons 7 times, 42,000 tons will be in the streets of Athens. 42,000 tons, if you take into account that the specific weight of waste is approximately 0.3, is 3 times the volume. it will be a disaster, even for public health. So, as far as we have very crowded cities, like Athens, like Thessaloniki, cities that have been designed to accept 500,000 population, and now we have 5 million in Athens. We don't have time to spend in discussing and convincing people. We have to apply the legislation, and we don't have time to discover everything. All the technologies have been developed, have been applied in other countries. The only thing we have to do is to go there to see what they are doing, because they have solved these problems 30 years ago, and come back and do the same. We don't have to discover United States of America from the beginning. That has been done. So the technologies are there. What we have is to apply the technology, but we have to make one decision, and we have to see one truth directly. The truth is that in every place of the world, the waste treatment is paid by the citizens. And this is something that the officials don't say to the people, although it's true. And they consider that if we take into our everyday the appropriate treatment of waste, it will be very expensive for us, which is not true, because, for example, with the treatment we are having today, landfilling costs about 40 euros per ton. To take the waste, put it in a appropriate landfill with all the requirements and specifications. If we consider that we are doing the most expensive treatment, that is waste to energy process, which is the most expensive, and if we consider that this 40 euros per hour will rise to 200 euros per ton, from 40 euros per ton, we have a rise to 200 euros per ton. This is an increase of 160 euros per ton. In the European Union, every citizen is producing maximum 0.6 tons per year. If you make the calculations, you will see that the most expensive treatment of waste will charge every citizen about 100 euros per ton, less than 100 euros per year, which is 12 euros per month. It is not very expensive. If you take into account all the benefits you will have more space, you will have less waste, you will have a more cleaner environment, you will have better rivers, better seas.
As a legacy to pass by to younger generation.
Can you repeat?
As a legacy to pass by to younger generation.
A legacy?
Yes.
A legacy to younger generation. I think they must be more familiar with the problem, because this is something that is not very common in everyday discussions between young generations. And the problem is that one of the big things is that these environmental problems are not very of public interests, let's say. No one is dealing with them until we have a big event, a big accident, for example. So the young generation can have a better information about that, and they are usually they are more sensitive on environmental things, the younger generation, but over the years they are getting disappointed because they don't see something to change. The young generation must keep believing that the environment must be protected because it's something they will get from us and they will give it to the next generation.
Do you see a future for your company applying these environmentally policies?
The future, yes. If we get really obliged to apply the environmental policy, there is a future which will be win-win because new technologies will be applied in the country, new job opportunities will rise out of this, a new economy will be developed, and also the environment will be protected. So it will be a better future, not only in a business point of view, but also from the environmental point of view. And this is something that makes this job and this business very important and very attractive, because it's not only a business, it's not only a job that is giving you the money to live, it's also something that makes you feel very good and very satisfied because of the result. If you give a solution to an environmental problem, it's not only that you are getting your money back, is you have ethical satisfaction that you have contributed to a better future for the generations, for the upcoming generations. And this is, believe it or not, sometimes, most of the times, more important than getting your money or your money back or your salary or everything.
Okay.
It is very important coming back from your job to your house and feeling that you have contributing to something very important environmentally.